You're listening to Head to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Two fans, two generations, all things Star Wars begins now.
All right, well, once again, hello, everybody. I'm Eric Vansel.
And I'm Daryl Sanders.
And we are your hosts for the show. And, of course, we're reviewing Visions Volume 3. We always say Season 3, but it's really Volume 3, Episode 6. It's called The Lost Ones. Ted's got a lot to say already. So I'm going to put these up in order because he starts out by saying to us, okay, watching now is prep for the show, guys. All right, so this is, of course, way before we went on. Then he says, just finished it. Phenomenal for me. Goes on to say, they did more in 20 minutes than most movies do 2 hours or series do in a whole season. Star Wars Vision is smashing it this season, and any channel that calls itself a Star Wars channel that isn't covering this should be ashamed. Kudos to you guys. The Force is strong with you all. It's funny because I was actually looking at that myself, where I had put a poll up about our coverage of Visions to find out, what people wanted. And of course, let me access that again really quick before we get too deep into this, because the options were, hey, do you want us to keep doing this episode by episode? Do you want us to just do all the episodes into one season? Basically asking people like how they wanted us to handle our review of Visions. And see if anything's changed. Nope, still the same. So people voted, and 75% said they want us to keep doing it the way we're doing it. Do it episode by episode. And I was checking, and you're right. There's not a whole lot of people there's almost nobody that's doing it.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of strange to me. Because it's a popular show.
Well, I think just because it doesn't follow the canon.
Well, that could be. You're right. That could be. But I will say this. Regarding this episode, I agree with you, Ted. This was an amazing episode. I mean, everything. I thought the animation was cool. It was very similar to the last episode. It had some of that 2D thing going, like a speed racer or something like that. And then it had almost like a 3D animation element at times. But yeah, I mean, one of the things that I noticed about this season of Visions is that they're really getting a lot into character depth, story. It's not confusing. The music was incredible in this one. Yeah, I mean, in watching it, I was just blown away by what they did and the whole storyline. I thought it was incredible. I'm like, wow. I mean, and I thought the last story was actually really good. But this one, man.
Well, it's impressive since there's not a whole lot of talking in it either. That's the thing. That's what makes it so unique, is that it's not a whole lot of dialogue in this. So, the fact that you can do based upon emotions and call upon like music, like the sound design on this is, like you said, like, really, really good. And just the things that they use to convey themes, messages, without, it being vocal, says a lot. For it to be as good as it was, to not use a whole lot of, vocals with it, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I don't know. And I mean, getting into this, I mean, I thought that it was, at first it was a little bit different, but yeah, I mean, it wasn't maybe overly chatty, but I mean, they did have a lot of really strong dialogue scenes. I'm trying to remember some of the characters though. Because
yeah, that's always the
thing. I'm gonna see, because I mean, I know you got it up. I can get it up on my phone pretty quick. Well, reasonably because I actually have to sign into the right account on my drive. That would help. All right, here we go. This should be it. Yeah, so I mean, let me see. Because, well, first of all, you had that scene where they had to get out of the planet and it was about to be like totally frozen over in this like carbonite leak or whatever it was. Which I thought that was cool. That they mined a little bit of this like liquid carbonite type thing or whatever. And then you had, that whole what almost looked like a volcanic eruption type of a thing. And, it started, of course, overtaking it, and they end up getting these kids out and getting on the ship and all that stuff. But it didn't, I mean, other than the duel between the Padawan and the Master that turned into a Sith, which, of course, that was basically the whole third act, right? I mean, that was, and that was, I mean, just the way that was handled, the dialogue between that, I mean, what Ted was saying, I basically agree with. It's like, these things, this is what the movie should be like. Or the Disney Plus shows, like the other ones. I mean, this is a Disney Plus show. I realize that. But I mean, this is what the live action one should be like.
What would you so based upon a live action, what would you compare it to? I kind of look at it like more of a Andorish type thing.
Yeah. I mean, it starts out that way because, once again, you don't realize that she's a Jedi. I mean, you kind of do because she's wearing the robes and,
Yeah.
She starts talking about when she's teaching it, and the one dude's like, oh, you should be a teacher or whatever. And she's like, I don't know. I mean, you do get some context clues that, yeah, I think she's a Jedi. You definitely believe that, right? But, yeah, I mean, I think, because there's a twofold thing, right? I mean, on one hand, you're almost like, well, if anything's good, you compare it to Andor, because that's the good series.
True. That is that is a standard. I mean,
I guess on one hand, you're almost like comparing it because it's like, oh, well, what do you think it's like? Well, it's good, so it's kind of like Andor. I mean, it could have had like a whole like Geonosis style Jedi battle in it, and we would still compare it to Andor simply because Andor's good. Yeah, it's kind of like Andor. But I think that also from a character development and a pacing standpoint. Because at first, honestly, I was really surprised by how much action it ended up having in it. And I'll tell you, man, like when that Star Destroyer just came out of hyperspace on it.
Oh, man, yeah.
I was like, wow, that was like really sinister, and that was a striking visual. And
it kind of reminds you of the Dreadnought from was it Last Jedi?
Well,
yeah.
It was. I mean, the Dreadnought was like kind of an expanded universe thing they borrowed, and I actually think it might have even popped up in Rebels. But yeah, The Last Jedi is where we saw it. By the way, Ted says Andor is a solid comparison.
Yeah, I definitely, I think that when you have really good action married to the story, that's all we really are asking for. I mean, it sounds simple, right? But I mean, I think there's the complexities in the, like, using fear like as kind of like one of the main things. It's kind of like the thread in this particular episode, and that being, honestly, that is it's not even so much. And it was funny because I was just watching this clip of George Lucas. He was talking about the Force, and he was just basically saying, like, it's not even so much that the Sith are bad. It's just more so like what drives them is their fear of things, and that's kind of like that's really what the Jedi are really fighting against. They're more or less fighting against their fears, because that's one of the main things that you have to overcome in order to become a Jedi, right? As part of the Jedi trials is overcoming, or being overcoming things that you're afraid to lose. So when you're talking about fear, and that's when you kind of flip it to the point where it's like that's what we're really fighting against, as opposed to a particular person or like an emperor type thing, but it's more so like just an ideal. I think that's
Yeah, that's definitely part of it. But I think another part of it too, in going with that, that whole theme, is the fact that there's still, and this is another way that it can compare to Andor, there's still a little bit of that, hey, the Empire's good. We got to get back to the Empire. They'll help us. You know, they'll do whatever. And it almost becomes like a Battlestar Galactica thing where they're trying to get back to Earth or something. That's where at first I thought maybe the story was going, until that Star Destroyer popped out of nowhere. And what I loved about it was very much like Andor. You're seeing from the more grounded level, not so much the higher level, where we obviously know the Empire has nefarious plans, and they're not what they seem. And this is a theme that you and I talked about on a lot of shows that we've done, where it's like, look, to the galaxy at large, I mean, it's pretty much okay. It was the Republic, now it's the Empire. It's like a name change.
Yeah.
And okay,
artist formerly known as Prince, and now I'm a symbol now.
Right.
It's just...
and it's like, all right, so Palpatine, yeah, okay, maybe we're not. I mean, it's almost like he tweaked the government a little bit, but not so much that to the general population, it wasn't really that different. Okay, they're not clone troopers, now they're stormtroopers, that kind of thing. Like, they weren't privy to the more sinister nature of what the Empire was and what it was trying to do. And because there was a lot of propaganda going around, you didn't see a lot of the atrocities that were happening on these other planets that would have told the general population, like, hey, Empire bad, eventual rebellion good. And so what you have is, at first, you had this attitude among the crew of the ship, the kids and all that, like, yeah, we're going to get back to the Empire, and they're going to take care of us, and they're going to, they're going to do whatever. Well, then the Star Destroyer pops out, and it becomes, okay, we know you have a Jedi on board, so turn the Jedi over to us, or we're going to destroy you all. It's kind of like, okay, yeah, maybe the Empire's not as benevolent as we once thought. And it's basically juxtaposed right then and there. It's there's no pretense of, we'll come on board and we'll get. No, it's more like, listen, you have a Jedi on there. We want the Jedi. You either turn the Jedi over, or we're going to destroy the entire ship.
Yep, you all die. Yeah, it's like you said, the Empire is not as benevolent as you once thought, from their perspective. That's kind of one of the reasons why I loved Andor, is because you get to see from everyday people like what the Empire is doing to the galaxy. And I think that's what this story definitely shows. And this is why I want a live version of the Bad Batch, in a way, because one of the things that we really did enjoy about that was, like, we're seeing the thread being pulled and the unraveling of, like, the galaxy, and from the perspective of the people. Like, okay, our government was once this great, mighty, benevolent, cool, government, and then now things are just changing. And for some people, it's kind of like that whole frog in water, where it doesn't even realize it's being boiled yet, and until it's too late.
Well, I think that a lot of that, though, is because for a lot of planets, there really isn't that much of a difference. It's only when, say, you have a planet that has a bunch of resources that the Empire needs, and instead of coming in and saying, hey, we're going to trade you, this or whatever, it's like, no, we're going to take this and then wipe out your population, those kind of things. Like you said, with the Bad Batch, stuff the Bad Batch actually saw. which they themselves learned.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, this is more than just a name change.
Yeah, exactly.
This is like a little bit different of a thing that's going on here. And their eyes were open to what the Empire was really about. Because even when you start reading books like Lost Stars and things like that, where they're showing you like the normal employees of the Empire.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, everybody laughs at it, but like a Matt the radar technician, right? I mean, granted, it wasn't a real Saturday Night Live skit, but it would be like that level of employee, though.
Exactly, like
somebody that just works. They're going in. I mean, and
I'm
like
a custodian on the Death Star or something like that.
Right?
I don't.
Or basically showed us that too, where it was a lot of guys that were just like a system analyst or something. Nobody had too much information to know what was really going on. To them, they would just show up day to day. They were government employees. I mean, that's basically the way that they looked at it. And because of that, they didn't know either. I mean, if you had asked them, the evil empire, they'd be like, well, because again, it was more like they saw the rebellion as evil because they didn't realize what was going on. So they looked at the rebels like terrorists. So when you don't have all the information like that. So, I mean, I think that in a lot of cases, a lot of the population never even knew that the Empire was the least bit bad.
Yeah, I mean, and the way that Palpatine masterfully turned the Jedi against the people.
Oh yeah, and then they mentioned that in this episode too. Like, oh yeah, the Jedi were horrible and tried to take over whatever it was.
Yep.
That they said, and it just shows you, like, oh yeah, see, he did a really good job.
Widespread, manipulation, man, and that's what I'm saying. Like the fact that no one really notices what's really happening because it's kind of like, well, we're doing what we always have been doing, but there's like, okay, it's almost like you're at a corporation, like this huge corporation. Like, I'll take, since we're in Detroit, you take something like GM, and if GM says like, oh, okay, guys, hey, we're still General Motors, but we're going to change the name to this, and our colors are now this. Now we're going to go from a blue to a gray, and now all of our stuff is gray now, and this is still our mission, but we're there's been some administrative changes here and there, and we're gonna take some time for everyone to get acclimated, but just keep coming and doing your job. And yeah, people just think like you have your little teams meeting in the morning that everybody hates on Monday morning. Okay, what's the docket for today? Oh, okay, we got to go to Alderaan and get this. Yeah, but now there's another division that just knows like, hey, when I say we have to go to Alderaan to get, I mean you take it. Like there's that small group of people that no one else in the big picture sees. Just a small group that kind of knows, okay, we have to go down there and do this. So yeah, like you said, everyone kind of looks at it and is like, oh, everything's fine. What are you talking about? You have that look on your face, Eric.
Yeah, because David wrote in, he says, hello, gentlemen, it's Star Wars Day. Sorry I'm late. I'm black. So David obviously is on CP time. Oh man!
Well, spit out this.
If our channel is going to go down, let it go down in a blaze of glory, right? Well, man, we're glad to have you, David.
I'm glad it's December and not February. That's all I'm gonna say. But anyway,
yeah, exactly. No, but going to your point though, what it is that you're just talking about various levels of people and employees and what they know. I mean, really, honestly, even when you're not talking about, I mean, just using the GM example. There's a lot of plans that obviously the board of directors, the CEO, CFO, CEO, all those guys, like they know stuff that's going on that the general employee doesn't.
Right.
So because of that, there's going to be things that maybe to some of the more like higher mid-level employees, something will come up. And they're not surprised, but the lower level employees are totally shocked by some move that, was made or whatever.
Yeah.
So you basically have that kind of situation. And this was happening at the Empire. you got people that are more in the know about what's going on. And even then, it's different levels because you had a lot of those Imperial guys were, like when you had Dedra and, Cyril and all that. And then they're basically having like their intergalactic board meetings. Well, even they're not as completely in the know as like a Tarkin or a Vader or whatever, right? So,
what's his face?
Krennic?
Krennic, yeah.
Because even Krennic wasn't really in the know either.
Yeah.
I mean, if you really look at it, he should have been.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, he should have been, but when you look at the scope of things, like, yeah.
Well, that's because they were trying to undermine him with the Death Star, And so, again, it's like, okay, here you do have a high-level guy, but they're trying to stab him in the back.
Mm-hmm.
So, But, I mean, as it basically relates to this episode of Visions, though, once again, you have people finding out the hard way that the Empire isn't the benevolent government that everybody thought it was. And so now they have to basically turn over this Jedi and figure out what to do. Now, of course, she, decides to go over anyway, because the other plot of this, which I thought was really interesting, the way they handle this, I should say, because it's a plot that we've seen before. I mean, you kind of get this with Dooku and things like that, where you have a Jedi that turned, and now they're trying to get their Padawan to turn, right? I mean, obviously, Dooku wasn't doing that with Qui-Gon, but he was trying to do that with Obi-Wan, like his grand Padawan or something. So you have that. The other thing that you have is you basically have this... It was really weird how that was handled, because I remember in the beginning of the episode, they had shown she was obviously having a flashback when she was a kid and being trained by him. 'Cause she had said that whole little thing like, oh, is it because I'm little or something like that? But...
size matters not.
Right. Yeah, he's like, look at Yoda,
Mm-hmm.
Which I thought was pretty funny too. But that's one of the things that I'm really enjoying about this particular season or volume of Visions, is that they're really, first of all, it makes sense. Like, it's not as artsy as what we got in the previous seasons. And if you really look at each of these 3 volumes, the first volume was very artsy and very different. And a lot of times we had to fight to figure out what was going on. I mean, because otherwise it's like, okay, yeah, I'm looking at some very beautiful imagery, but I don't know what any of this means.
Exactly.
Then you get season 2 or volume 2, which is interesting because unlike volumes 1 and this one, 3, it was actually done by multiple studios. And not only was it done by multiple studios, it was done by studios from all over the world. So you got a take from Brazil, a take from India, a take from, like I think New Zealand was
Australia,
one, and even the United States. So you basically got all these different takes. And that was a really good season. But it was somewhat of a bridge because you did have a little bit of that going on. Like, in particular, the first episode. I remember you were very concerned, well, we both were really, that, like, oh, I don't know about this, man. But then after that first episode, a lot of it became pretty good. But unlike even that, this particular season, things have been pretty easy to follow. You have less symbolism and artsy imagery.
More context, yeah.
More context, yes. That was another big complaint that we've had.
Big one, yeah.
About Visions, because both of us agreed that, look, we can handle the artsiness, we can handle all that, but you got to give us context for what we're watching. And so, consequently, we're getting all of that, but we're also getting really great character development. We're getting really good animation, fantastic music. It actually feels like Star Wars. I think that this volume of Visions is probably what it should have been from the beginning.
Yeah.
It was a take on Star Wars.
I think season 1 was finding their footing, but I think this is kind of like they're hitting their stride now with this, where it's as comprehensive as as they want it to be without being too out there. It's complex. It's, nuanced and, avant-garde in certain areas, but then it's still digestible for people. And it's like, okay, you know what? All right, I can hang with this. What does this episode say to you about the cost of survival, though, in the Star Wars galaxy?
That's the thing. It's like it's one of the things that I found really fascinating about this particular episode is that it's actually focusing more on the aftermath of it and not necessarily, what caused it or anything like that. Because, I mean, it basically opens in that. And it very much reminds me of the nature of episode 4. Not Vision's episode 4, but like A New Hope. Where we're in the middle of this universe. This, whole thing with its own set of rules, its own world, basically. And we basically, they like Leia references the Clone Wars. We don't know what that is. Like, nobody knew what that was in 1977 when this movie came out. It's like, you served my father, through the Clone Wars. And, we're like, oh, okay, yeah, of course you did. But we didn't have any context for that. We didn't know what that was. But yet, it was very much a compelling, easy to follow, classic story. And I think that that's what's being mirrored in this episode, is that you have a classic story of an event happens and now you're dealing with the aftermath. You don't necessarily need to know. I mean, they reference it a little bit with the whole carbonite thing, but I mean, you don't really have to start to show us every little thing. I was really glad they didn't do like flashbacks and things like that, because I think that one of the strengths of this episode is the fact that they're really focusing on character. Like strong character. They're really getting into the despair and the loneliness and the unknown that these kids are basically following, where they're trying to be normal, but at the same time, their whole world's gone.
Yeah.
And this is where I say it's kind of like the Battlestar Galactica thing, where you had a colony, they were an Earth colony, their colony was destroyed, now they're trying to go back and find Earth, and of course they got the Cylons and all that, chasing them. But it's basically the same concept. And so now you have these people that are desperate to get back to the very thing that now threatens to destroy them, and that's the Empire. And so you have all these themes. And then, of course, you have themes of survival and loss, because then when you get into the more microcosm of it, where you have the Jedi character and her master, well, now her master is the one who's actually leading this mission for the Empire. Kidnaps her, right? Well, not really. I mean, she basically went over there. But, I mean, she didn't really have a choice. It's like, look, we're going to wipe out the entire ship unless you do. Okay.
Right.
So she goes over there, and now she has to face the fact that there's another kind of loss. The kids, and they all lost their world. Now she lost her master, and now it's almost like an Anakin Ahsoka kind of thing, which is very much what it reminded me of.
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
it's funny because she was all like, I was wondering where they were going to go with it, and it was interesting that she had that little vial of carbonite, liquid carbonite or whatever, because it's just like, he's just basically owning her, and I thought they were going to do the whole typical, she's going to find her strength and all of a sudden, come out of some sort of a box or something, right? But she was just like, nope, you're right. I can't best you, with swords. I mean, you got me there, but check this out. And then, of course, she had injected him with this stuff.
Yeah. But, I mean, I think, that's kind of a reoccurring theme in Star Wars, too, where we're constantly rebuilding, right? We're constantly rebuilding or surviving, I should say. Like, you look at Rogue One and, those guys had to survive. You look at Andor, they had to survive. Even in Solo, it's about survival. Episode 3, of course, we know eventually, with the whole Order 66 thing, survival, New Hope, survival.
Well, even the rebellion themselves through the
Yeah,
entire
the
trilogy.
rebellion. Yeah, it's about survival, right?
So there was the individual survival of the characters, right? But then there was also the overall.
The
I mean,
organization.
if you think about it, if the Death Star had been successful in wiping out that Yavin base,
it'd been a wrap.
there'd be no more rebellion.
Yeah,
I mean, they were basically all there. I mean, and from a tactical standpoint, you'd think maybe they would have just been like, maybe we should have maybe we should have at least like some other force on some other planet somewhere, so in case something happens to us, But I mean, it was basically an all or nothing type of situation. That's what we're seeing here.
They're like, look, we ride together, we die together. That's rebellion for life. And then you also have the Resistance. Same way. When we see Leia, and especially in Last Jedi, when she's like, she's watching all these bombers get, picked off.
Yeah.
Because Poe is, being reckless. And, when they had a chance to leave, he's like, no, we got a chance to take out a dreadnought. Like, this is our chance. Like, we won't get another shot at this. And she's like, no, we got to get out of here for a good reason. And, of course, that didn't happen. So now you have, 30 people left in the Resistance. It's like...
Well, and it's a similar thing to really, if you think about it, what happened in A New Hope with Luke, right? Hey, you switched your targeting computer off.
Yeah.
And, he's just all like, oh, yeah, well, whatever. And I was really kind of surprised.
Yeah, this is the point you always
dialogue. Make. I know. I always make this point every time.
But it's always funny to me, though.
It doesn't make sense. Because they're like, oh, okay, whatever. And I'm like, really? Because you got this guy that you just met who he's a kid. He basically comes from this farming background. I mean, okay, you could probably make the case of, hey, he is like the last one. So, I mean, he must have some skills, right? But still. And it's just like, okay, he's going down the shaft or like down the trench. And it's like, all right, man, we got this one shot. And if this kid misses, we're done. Like the Death Star was getting ready to fire. The little laser things were, converging at that one point. I mean, it was definitely going to be over. So I would have thought that maybe some dialogue would have been written to the effect of, hey, listen, I get what you're saying.
But we're all down here like...
But how about you put that targeting computer back on and do this the right way? Now
we'll feel more comfortable if you at least make it look like...
Yeah, exactly. I mean, even if you didn't listen to him, it's just kind of like, you know what, just make us feel better. Turn the thing back on.
Turn it on.
I don't care I don't know what you're doing in there, but just,
Right, I don't know who you're talking to. It'll just make us off down here who are like, basically wetting ourselves because we're about to be vaporized in like 2.5 seconds.
Right. I would have just been like, I don't know. Maybe you missed that part in the briefing where we told you that that targeting computer is how the photon torpedo finds the target.
Yeah.
Hence the name targeting computer. So,
yeah.
I mean, and again, macro science fantasy, but that was just one of those more glaring things, right? It's not so much the fact of how it was carried out. It was more that if you look at what was at stake for those characters, it doesn't make sense that those characters were just like, oh yeah, of course. I mean, even if he had used the line, like, listen, I'm going to use the Force or something.
That will make it worse. You're what? Wait, time out. Like, first of all, who are you? Then you're some kid, again, who's flying. That's like, that whole scene reminds me of another scene. I wouldn't be surprised if they borrowed the concept. Independence Day, 1996.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You got this guy who's been, screwing up, dust cropping the wrong fields because he's got a drinking problem. And then the world is at stake. They're all out of missiles. He's the only one who's got missiles left. oh, but there's a malfunction with his with the missile release. So now he's got the bright idea. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna just fly this thing right into the to the eye of this stupid thing and just destroy it. And everybody else has got to be kind of like, yeah, okay. Are we sure we want to put our lives in the hands of this guy? Like the president of the United States is up there, and then we got this guy who's just, yep, I got it. Don't worry about it.
But you know where else they have a parallel, right? Is the fact that they didn't really have much of a choice in either situation, right? I mean,
that's what I'm saying. Like you're the only guy is like you.
All right, well,
yeah. Either way,
do what he's gonna do.
Well, my thing is like you have to look at it from Luke Skywalker thing. It's like, hey, if he makes it, great. But if he doesn't, I mean, we're gonna die anyway. So it is what it is.
My thing is like, look, it's easy for you to say you're still in an X-wing. Yeah, if you miss the shot, you could just fly off wherever. If you miss the shot, we're dead.
True story. Very true. Very, very true.
You're kind of out there. You're gonna
you could be like okay. Vader spinning around and eventually find you a base somewhere.
Right. You're gonna be fine, presumably, or at least you got a better shot at it than we do down here. I'm just surprised that there wasn't, some form of dialogue.
Speaking of doing my job if I didn't,
Speaking of being high, David's question, is like I don't even know what's going on here. It's like we're like in the middle of this in-depth conversation about just this whole concept. Like we're in deep, right? This isn't even a superficial thing. I mean, we're going
in the weeds
heart
here.
We are in the heart of Star Wars right now. This is not like some just surface level conversation. And what does David do? David hits us with this like
he's David.
Little weird, I don't know, My Little Pony style like question, which if you could have a Star Wars Christmas wish, what would it be?
Well, it is the holiday season. I know
what he's saying.
He's just in the spirit.
No. I know what he's saying. It took me a minute though. That's why I had to set it up like this because at first I'm like, what kind of weird, bizarre? What he's talking about, I think, David, you can clarify if I'm wrong about this. I know you will. Is if there's anything that we could like, do we want another movie or, some like what do we want Star Wars to do kind of thing? That's what I'm getting out of it. I don't know. Is that?
Yeah, I think he's just basically saying like if we could wish for Star Wars to do one thing, what would that one thing be? I would just like to say, be good, just make good content. That's all.
Well, yeah, and look, I read today that there's going to be like 3 possible new trilogies that are being done. One of them is, obviously this Starfighter movie that just finished, that just wrapped production like a few days ago or something.
Yeah.
It's basically a standalone, but they're saying that it could actually be a trilogy of films because you also have to understand that one of the directives, when this came out, like within the last month, I can't remember if it was like in November or if it was like sometime during December. I mean, we're getting toward the end here. But Kathleen Kennedy's new direction for it is, hey, listen, we're not going to bog this thing down in trilogies, and we're not going to be beholden to the Skywalker saga and having it fit, neatly into some era where you have to start worrying about a bunch of canon issues. I think she's actually going back to the idea of the standalone Star Wars movies that were coming out in between each one, where it's like they could just be standalone stories, but even more so because the 2 standalone movies we got were very much a part of that era and very much dependent on the stories that occurred around it. Whereas now it's like they could just be standalone stories that don't necessarily depend on that. So Starfighter one is a possibility. Mandalorian and Grogu, they think could possibly spin off as a trilogy. And then there was like one other one too. And I don't remember. Oh, the Simon Kinberg movie. That can end up being a trilogy. So we'll have to see. And I think that just going into what you're saying, it's like, okay, that's all well and good. Well, let's make sure they're good. And I think that a big part of that is they have to. Because at this tank, Star Wars is done.
Yeah.
I mean, I can tell you that right now. We have been saying this. I mean, we've been doing this podcast now for like 8 years. Going on 8 years. 7.5. Something like that. And we have been saying all through, like, you know what? They're starting to get into that point of no return. They're, okay, yeah, Star Wars is taking a few hits. Like it's still okay, but it's not as invincible as it once was. That was the first thing. Then the second thing is we started comparing it to the whole, we're still flying half a ship thing, where there's a lot of damage, but it's still there, right? Now we're at the do or die. This is basically the end. If this isn't good,
it's the goal line stand.
Yeah. Yep. First and goal. Final play of the game.
Yep, you got 4 downs.
Yeah.
You got to
so
make this work.
Whatever they do, they really have to be careful what they do. So I would say that for me, I mean, honestly, that would probably be, if I only could pick one wish, that would be it. Because I mean, it's got to be. Because here's the problem. I mean, we got a really good community of Star Wars fans here, and look, there was a number of years where there was no Star Wars content made, and you still have like a lot of the expanded, like they're not going to stop writing books. They're not going to stop, doing stuff. We were talking about Star Wars and the characters and all that stuff long before the new glut of movies came out, even with the prequel trilogy, right? So, I mean, you could still do a Star Wars show like ours indefinitely because there's enough stuff that's already been made that you could discuss it forever. Yeah. Like, even if we never discussed another new project again, we could just get into the weeds about anything that's been released and just come up with new stuff. However, growing a Star Wars channel will be very difficult because it would almost be better if they did leave it alone and let it just be a pop culture phenomenon instead of constantly releasing new stuff. So Dom, I'm surprised Dom hasn't chatted yet.
That's his thing too. He loves.
Well, he was mad the other day because, and he brought this up at the Christmas party too. He was kind of like, man, I keep signing on there trying to rage bait you, and you take every one of my comments and you turn it into some like valid discussion point. Because he's just trying to get it to where like I get angry about something, but I never do. And of course, that's called hosting, right? I mean, you have to.
Yes.
I mean, I've had to deal with a lot worse people than that on this show. But and then he was trying to say that the Matrix movies are better than the Star Wars movies, and there are a lot of things. And he was going to chat tonight, actually, and he still might.
It's just like David with his, Fast and Furious.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's part of the problem is the fact that there was a time where nobody, even a person who wasn't even into Star Wars, would never say that because everybody just knew that Star Wars is like the gold standard of franchises. It was bulletproof. Now, but I would say that, so that would be kind of like if I can only have one, that would probably be it. Like, just let it be good and let it not be the final nail in the coffin of the franchise that I've loved for 50 years. How about that?
Yeah.
Secondly, though, I don't know. I would almost go for like a live action Bad Batch thing.
Yeah. I would love that.
I would even almost go for a live action Visions thing.
I don't know about that one. I can go for, yeah, I would say live action Bad Batch. Only because like Visions, I mean, it's cool, but I think it does its best work as animation. I mean, not saying that you couldn't tell some of those stories, sure, or you
Well, I
can't
mean, what you
borrow
do is
like
you take,
concepts from them, but
well, you take some
like,
of the characters that, like a Ronin or something like that, and you actually make live action projects based on some of these characters, some of these worlds. I mean, even the last one, Yuko's Treasure, we're like, hey, if they made a series on this, we'd be all about it. Now, I know you're probably talking about animation,
mhm.
but, I mean, that was essentially Skeleton Crew. It's so I mean
Yeah,
they could
right.
I just think that they could take some of what I like about Visions is that they're not afraid to just tell good stories. I mean, I can't even believe I'm saying that about Visions actually, but you know, they've gotten to that point.
Yeah, but I think what makes it, a little bit easier for them is because it doesn't have to be long, so you can
Right.
get straight to it.
Yeah.
And that was gonna be my next question. Like, would this even this episode in particular, would this work as a full length like story, or does it serve it better as a short?
Well, I think it depends on how they handle it really because you look at some of the Clone Wars stuff. You
Hmm.
had that one guy that did those like 9-minute, eight
Oh
minute
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Clone
The
Wars
first one.
shorts.
Yeah, yeah.
For some reason, I never remember the guy's name. And you also have the Clone Wars animated series. Well, the Clone
Hmm.
Wars animated series is long. Each of those episodes is kind of long.
Yeah,
Clone Wars animated shorts are like 8 minutes. They both work. I mean, obviously, there's a stylistic difference, maybe, but
hmm,
I think that if you're just talking about characters and stories and things like that, you could adapt it to a longer format. I mean, you're not going to do like a live action anime, but you can definitely take some of these characters and some of these stories and expand them and tell maybe a longer, more complete story, I would think.
yeah.
That's
I
all I'm
mean,
saying.
I think you could. I think some things, like if you took the Clone Wars and made that into like a live action thing, sure, I think that works. But I think just because we're dealing with characters I mean, they're part of canon, and so and you're telling a canonized story as opposed to visions. Like I said, I think conceptually, I think they're great. There's some great stories there that you can use, like, that could turn into an Andor, shall we say, or something to that effect.
Yeah, with those
But
characters, even
with those characters, yeah,
you could
that's what I'm saying. Like,
canonize it. I mean, yeah, right now it's like okay, the gloves are off. There's no canon that you guys got to worry about, so just don't worry about it. But I mean, if you think about it, that's kind of the direction that they're going to overall in Star Wars anyway. It's like, well, you don't have to worry about the established canon in the sense of you don't have to tell stories around characters and things that have already been established. So you can, in effect, create new entries into the canon, if you will. Very much like what the expanded universe did. All right, so going with the Christmas wish. Ted's getting in on the action. He says,
ah,
my Star Wars wish, David started some here. He said would be that only creative people who love and or respect George Lucas's Star Wars and its fans would be the only ones involved in making new Star Wars. Well, the problem is you just described Dave Filoni. So I mean, you gotta be very, very careful because just because they fill all those attributes that you mentioned does not mean that they're gonna produce something good.
hmm. I mean, like I say, it's something to be said about, um, people who aren't fans
Yeah, look at Tony
because you're
Gilroy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, because you don't have I'm going to use a David word. You don't have the bias of, this being your favorite.
Right.
You can actually just go into it with clear mind,
You're only
pure heart, and
worried about
just like
telling a good story.
Telling a good story and just using what you give me like, okay, here's a blueprint or here's a recipe or here's the ingredients. That's what I want to say. Here's the ingredients list. Make something out of it. Now,
the other thing, because you can just imagine Gilroy going, yeah, and I want to do, what's the name of that gold droid thing again?
yeah. What's the one that looks like an Oscar?
Yeah, right, yeah. Exactly. That Oscar-looking thing.
Then the little trash can one, that's the, right R2D2.
Right, yeah, exactly. The little trash receptacle, his little friend or whatever, along with that dog. What's the dog's name again?
It's the dog's Chewbacca. Yeah, it's totally like Spaceballs.
So, exactly. So, it's just, which, Spaceballs 2 also finished filming, by the way.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
Yeah. So
I'm definitely going to see that.
So, the thing that is really interesting is that, you look at the guy, based on what Ted just said, the guy that perfectly fits the criteria he talked about is part of the problem. I'm not saying that Filoni hasn't done anything good. Obviously, he has. But he also is part of what has made Star Wars not good, too. And then you look at a person who diametrically opposes that criteria, like a Tony Gilroy. He's made arguably the best Star Wars project, both in film and on television. So you can't really say that, about the only thing that I would say that maybe goes in with what Ted's saying is that you got to have somebody that respects Lucas's vision and somebody who understands what Lucas was doing. Telling a very classic, broad stroke story. Once upon a time, a long time ago, in a galaxy far... it's basically combining all of these different classic storytelling techniques and styles and making an amalgamation that's timeless. And that's what you have to do. Now, where you want the fan to come in is the guy that helps the guy that's making the thing. Right? That can tell you who's the Oscar-looking droid or what's the dog's name or any of these other questions that they might, casually ask, right? And somebody who understands it deep enough. Because the one thing that I do like about Filoni is being that he's also a fan of the expanded universe and all that, he's trying to bring a lot of that stuff in there. Look, he's the one that brought Thrawn in. Now, flip side of that is a very successful thing in the animation. He nailed it. Live action? Mostly. Mostly, but there's a lot of issues. It's not really a problem with the... it's the same guy that did the voice is doing the live action. Now, granted, they probably should have gotten Benedict Cumberbatch to play that role, but that's neither here nor there. All right, so Ted also says, well, Ahsoka is my favorite series of this decade. So apparently I'm fine with Dave Filoni. Everybody's different. Yeah, that was a... You actually watch our Ahsoka review? That was funny. But, what I'm talking about is you have to remember that Filoni he's been the guy in charge with The Acolyte. He's executive producer of that thing. He was the guy that made Obi-Wan. He was the guy that made, season 3 of The Mandalorian along with Favreau. What I'm saying is that you can't... And the problem with Ahsoka, like I said, we enjoyed Ahsoka, but the problem with Ahsoka is that the writing was so bad. He's a flawless animation guy. anytime Filoni comes out with an animated series, it's incredible.
Yeah.
The writing's amazing, the direction's amazing, the animation's amazing, the stories are incredible, they're right on point. The guy is like bulletproof when it comes to animation. Problem is, if you know anything about film, you know that he's terrible right now as a live action director. Will he get there? Yeah, he'll get there one day. He's a talented guy. He knows what he's doing. He's just new. I just wish he wasn't practicing on Star Wars.
Yeah.
That's
I mean, the things we do have, the things we do have to look forward to, like you said, Eric, Mandalorian Grogu, 26, Starfighter, 27, and then we're still waiting on season 2 of Ahsoka, as we know we were talking about. So hopefully that's better. Hopefully, Rosario Dawson looks like she's ready to come to work. The Lando movie is still on the table.
I know.
The Maul Shadow Lord series.
That I'm really looking forward to. And that they just had something. Oh, I'm trying to remember now. I just was reading something like a day or two ago about it. If you guys in the chat remember, let me know. If you guys read the same thing. There was some new article about Shadow Lord that came out that gave us a little bit more detail on. I don't remember if it was when it was taking place, because we kind of already know that. I don't know. It might have been more detailed about it. I don't exactly recall. Because there's a lot of Star Wars stuff, believe it or not, that came out like within the last week. And of course, I've been working. So it's like I'd really quickly like read something and then file it away. But I'm really looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to Ahsoka season 2. I'm really looking forward to The Mandalorian and Grogu. Starfighter. I do wonder, though, because, the whole Rogue Squadron thing was supposed to be the Top Gun in space. I almost wonder if now Starfighter is going to fill that role.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I've often thought about that. If they've taken maybe some of the concepts that she had and maybe added more to it, and changed the name and kind of made it Starfighter. Because I think hers was called Rogue Squadron. So, which was cool because there's a whole video game based off of that.
Yeah, I know. That was how it started out. Oh, Ted said Ahsoka is how I found y'all.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, well, I guess it's a good thing we reviewed it. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Because I was trying to remember, like, when you came in. Because I don't know, you've been with us now for so long, it just seems like you've been with us the whole time. But, yeah, that's right. You did come in with Ahsoka. I remember that. Yeah. I remember. Well, I'm glad you stayed with us.
Yeah.
And, of course, Ahsoka Season 2.
Yep, we got Ahsoka Season 2.
And that's going to drop when? That's next year, right?
That's next year.
Because they finished filming that, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's probably in post-production.
Now, they still have Dawn of the Jedi, the James Mangold thing. They have this whole new Jedi Order, a droid story. Dave Filoni has a movie. Taika Waititi has a movie. Simon Kinberg has a trilogy. Dillard and Owens have a project. And I don't know why they still have Rian Johnson's, but I think Rian Johnson's... I don't know.
Ryan Johnson himself said that was over.
Yeah.
He himself said it was done. That's not happening. The Rey movie seems like it keeps getting on, and then it keeps getting... It's like off the schedule now, again. So I don't see that. I don't think it's going to be permanent, though. I do think there will be that Rey movie eventually.
They still have the movie with Charmaine Chinoy as the director. It's just like late.
I can't help but think of A Few Good Men, though. Who's going to do it? You, Kinberg?
Yeah.
With the trilogy?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, like the Lando series, Dawn of the Jedi, is still planning. That's the one I really, really want them to do. If it's hopefully just done right.
What, Dawn of the Jedi?
Yeah. I'm excited, or even more excited for that as I was for Ahsoka. I mean, I'm sorry, Ahsoka. Ahsoka
cautiously
and
optimistic.
Acolyte.
I'm only cautiously optimistic because I really like the origin story of the Jedi that was done for the expanded universe and even more fleshed out in Knights of the Old Republic. And my fear is that they're going to try to do some cool, weird, modern or whatever. And
right.
It's just not going to hold up as well. And the problem with it, this is what I've always cautioned, the problem with doing that, if you actually create a canonized origin story beyond or instead of or whatever that's already there, because I mean, to be fair, it is kind of loose canon. You're gonna affect the entire franchise for French fries franchise.
Yeah, you did.
You're gonna affect. I haven't really had dinner yet. You're gonna affect the entire franchise for years to come, like decades, like forever, basically.
Forever.
I mean, you think the sequel trilogy? Look at what happened with the sequel trilogy. They would give their right arm to reboot that thing outright, but they can't. They can't for two reasons. Number one, it's too soon. Secondly, it's got like the classic characters in it with the actors.
Mm-hmm.
So unless they're able to unless AI catches up, which it is close. It is very close. I should say until that happens, they really can't do it. And look at how they're stonewalled. They're basically softly rebooting it. I mean, I had been saying that for years. When people, right after Rise of Skywalker came out, everybody's like, oh, geez, are they going to do this? And The Mandalorian. I said, look, here's what's going to happen. They're going to softly reboot the thing. They're going to come up with just a big glut of projects leading up to it and everything, and then they'll just kind of go around it. And because you'll have all these projects, they're telling us all these different stories, you can basically softly reboot it because you'll be so used to whatever the new projects are, you won't pay as much attention to the sequel trilogy at that point.
The old shell game.
Yeah, kind of like that. Now, I had been saying that for years. They've actually even almost officially said it at this point, that they're kind of doing that.
Yeah.
But it's not like I think that I'm some sort of weird clairvoyant in that, because it's kind of like, well, what else are you going to do? I mean, it's like there's only really, if you're going to work around the problem, you either reboot it or you softly reboot it. There's really no other way around it. So, I mean, we'll just end up having to see what happens on that front, obviously. If we're still alive. I mean, who knows how long this is going to go, right? I mean, I remember thinking about that the other day where I'm like, the weird thing that's going to be hard for me to accept is Star Wars movies being made after I'm dead.
Yeah, you and I both have had that conversation.
Yeah.
And it's funny because we were saying that ironically, like, we remember like when the sequel trilogy were coming out, we were like, man, what if we died before we saw The Last Jedi?
Yep.
And then, I mean, not The Last Jedi, but like
Force
The Rise
Awakens.
Skywalker. Well, yeah, any of them. But it's like, you don't see the full story.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that
so
would
you get The Last Jedi, but you don't get The Rise of Skywalker. So how does this thing end? It's kind of like, I have to know the conclusion of this. And it's funny because Eric and I were just off camera yesterday, right? What's today? No, a couple of days ago. We were reminiscing on when he and I bravely took on the challenge of seeing the
it was a few days
Star
ago.
Wars
3 days ago. I was actually at
Star
work
Wars
when
marathon.
I texted you that.
Yeah. So we were showing our pictures from that time where we actually spent a day and a half in the theater.
Well, it basically started at like 1 a.m. and
was
went
11.
to.
I thought it was 11 at night. Yeah, I thought we started at like 11 at night.
Yeah, it might have been actually.
And then it
all the way to the next day. Yeah.
All the way to the next day till like 7 o'clock.
The Force Awakens, premiered at like 9 p.m. or something.
Yeah.
Yep, and they would do They would do 15-minute breaks between each movie, and they would do half-hour breaks between each trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it was like 45 minutes.
I think.
Yeah, it might have been an hour. Because I know we had time to go to Subway in between one of them. We did the Subway breakfast after the prequels. Yeah, that was insane. That was insane. But that was a lot of fun. But yeah, I mean, that's, I started thinking about that. Like, man. Now, if they keep making Star Wars movies like they have been, I probably won't care.
Yeah, right. Yeah, just take me, Lord.
Yeah, it's like, actually, I would consider it more a blessing for me to die before, any of these things are made. But, hopefully they turn that around. And honestly, I'm really glad that Visions is good. It's gotten to the point now where I'm looking forward to the next episode. First, it was kind of like, oh, man, gotta watch Visions because we got to review it.
Then, they've already said the next one is going to be called The Ninth Jedi.
Yeah, well, that one's one of the sequel ones. So remember, there were like 3 episodes of this volume that are actually sequels or continuations or whatever from previous episodes. We had the Ronin episode, I think it was like first or second one this season. And then we had, I forgot what the other one was. But The Ninth Jedi is yet another one.
No, but I think they're going to make, that's the next volume, though. It's called The Ninth Jedi.
Oh, because isn't that one of the episodes too?
Yeah, it is.
It's like a sequelized, but you're saying they're taking that character and actually...
I think they might be doing like a whole volume just on that, maybe.
Well, that would be cool. If they actually, instead of doing a bunch of different stories, actually did like an actual single character story arc, that would be...
But you have all the different, people make one. That would be kind of interesting.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind that. But I mean, after that, it got to the point where I'm like, okay, this is getting better. And so every time I would watch it, I'd be like, okay, I hope this one's good. Well, now I'm at the point where I'm actually looking forward to them. And actually hoping they make a volume 4. Whereas, like, before, I'm like, well, we'll keep reviewing them as long as they do them, but it wouldn't hurt my feelings if they stopped. Now I actually am really enjoying the takes that they have on these different characters. And of course it helps that, from what we're getting from the more canonized projects, they've been so disappointing. It's almost like, yeah, let me see what's going on over here in this Visions thing. Because as Ted pointed out in the very beginning of our show tonight, they're doing more in these like 20-minute episodes and with better writing, better character development, better everything than a lot of these Star Wars projects are doing in, multi-hour series. Yeah. So, well, I guess we're going to just have to wait and see. We say that all the time, but it's true. So the next one that we got, as far as Star Wars projects, is definitely The Mandalorian and Grogu, I think, right? That comes out in May.
Yeah, that's the next big.
Yeah, you know what? It's kind of weird. It actually doesn't feel like it, but it's bizarre to think that in 5 months we're going to have another Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
Which we haven't had in like 10 years. Yeah. Well, maybe not quite that long. 6 years. The Rise of Skywalker came out in 2019. But it'll be 7 years by the time, 6.5, by the time Mandalorian and Grogu come out, so.
Well, if it's released, I wonder which weekend in May is it going to be released. Is it going to be the 8th, the 15th, the 22nd, or the 29th?
I thought they had the date for it already.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they got the date.
Let's see.
Yeah, producing on the fly, everybody. Yes, watch us type into our phones. Oh, I will say this while we're doing this. They, I think it was Favreau. Favreau cleared up that this is not season 4. That this is not the season 4. Yeah, May 22nd.
22nd, yep.
Yeah, I thought they had the date. So, I mean, I was happy about that. What did we say? It was like season 3.5 technically or something like that.
Yeah.
So I was happy that there is a prospect for The Mandalorian season 4. So, this has been fun.
Absolutely.
I enjoy this one, and, next week will be fun, too. And, of course, the week after that won't be as fun because I'm going to have to, like... holidays will be over and it'll just be going back to the mundane. So, and then
this Sunday we're gonna go into Christmas for those living who celebrate it in the States and around the world, and the following week we'll be getting ready to go into the new year.
Yep. Well, Christmas is this week. For next week will be the new year. After that, just keep on going. So, all right, next week we will be reviewing episode 7 of Visions, volume 3. I feel like I got to point that out, especially after what David had done last week.
Right.
So, volume 3
of
Visions, episode 7. We'll take a look. So, we only got 3 more episodes to go, 7, 8, and 9. Little sequel trilogy thing going.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting. So we'll actually be wrapping this up. Yeah, like pretty much like over the holiday season, like our next 3 episodes. Unless some crazy thing breaks but if that happens, we'll just do an additional show. So hopefully we see you guys next week, which will be, in thinking about it, the last show of 2025.
Yes, sir.
And then ironically, the last episode of Visions that we're reviewing will be the first episode of 2026.
Yep.
So contemplate that little mind puzzle, and we'll see you guys next week, basically. So with that, I'm Eric Vansel.
I'm Daryl Sanders.
May the Force be with you.
Always.
Head to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Be sure to follow us on Twitter @HeadToHeadSW. Submit your questions for our next show. Visit our official website at headtoheadswpodcast.com. Until next time, may the Force be with you, always.